Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Your Practice podcast, where you get to learn about marketing, growing, and scaling your private practice. I'm Brent Stutzman, and today we're going to be talking about how to build out an internal training system to level up your therapist clinical skills. But before we get into this episode, I want all the group practice owners out there and those who may be on the verge of starting a group practice know about the Group Practice Scaling Summit that I'm hosting on April 23rd and 24th this year in 2024. In beautiful Oak Park, Illinois. It's a day and a half where you get to grow your business owner skills. We're talking about how to hire amazing team members, how to fire team members, and what metrics you need to be tracking and to put in a dashboard to make sure your business is healthy and you don't have any blind spots. And we're going to be talking a whole lot more as well. So many more topics to cover. I want to think of this summit as a series of mini TED Talks where you get to listen to amazing content, but then you get to ask questions to the speaker and also learn from the wisdom of the group. We think community is important to the learning process, which is why we're limiting to only 50 attendees this year. If you need to level up as a business owner and grow as a leader, the Group Practice Scaling Summit is for you. Go to brandyourpractice.com/summit, or just go to Google and type in Group Practice Scaling Summit and sign up today. Tickets are going fast. There's only 50 of them. All right, so back to today's topic, how to build out an internal training system to level up your therapist clinical skills. And to help me do that is Susan Stutzman, the owner of Kid Matters Counseling in Hinsdale, Illinois, and also my lovely wife. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you. Hi, Brent. Hi, listeners. Nice to meet you.
So this is going to be a preview of a longer talk that you're going to be giving at the Group Practice Scaling Summit. And the next few guests on the podcast are going to be those who are going to be at the summit speaking and giving you a little preview as well. So these aren't going to be in-depth conversations, but just kind of give you a little more, so a little taste of what to expect at the summit. But you can also take some things for you to help grow your own practice. So Susan, I would love to jump into the topic at hand. And I want to start off with why. Why did you pursue building out an internal training system?
Well, I am a niche practice, so I wanted to have consistency of care. And when you have a niche practice, it's important to know what you're selling and make sure that your product has consistency.
Got it. And you were experiencing inconsistency in the product then, in the product of counseling?
Well, when I first started practice, it was counseling for children, and we were doing play therapy. And if you're selling something that you have a baseline of care, that's really what I want to highlight, is that if you have a specific product that you're selling, not just generalized counseling, like you're not going to a general medicine practitioner, you're getting open heart surgery, you want to make sure that they've had specific training in open heart surgery. If you're going to a child therapist, you want to make sure that they have some level of understanding with child development, the child's brain, etc. So it's important to actually have training so that you know what your clinicians are offering.
Well, good. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper in here. What would you like to share as far as the way you've been thinking about building out an internal training system and deploying it a little bit with your team?
Sure. So I think I touched a little bit on this already, but for general practice, creation of a systematized onboarding and general policies is always important. I mean, that's just a given, to be able to help people understand what they're expected, what's expected of them, what they're supposed to be doing, what policies you have, right? Whether, and this is whether you're a child or a clinician or not. Just having a policy on a statement on touch, a statement on all different types of ways that you utilize therapeutic approaches, and having general agreements. And so I find that it's important to take a look at, specifically because in my case, I have a niche practice, is that either I require someone to show me when I hire them, a level of knowledge through a third-party certification or through an extensive interview process of being able to work with children and families, or create my own. And what I found is that there are a lot of certifications, but they don't always have a child component. And so it was really advantageous for me to create my own training program, which you helped me to develop easily through the platform Therasas, which I love because I can input the training that I want my clinician to go through, and it's seamless as far as a training platform, which is helpful. And so my thoughts were that it's worth creating my own, because there's not something that is out there on the market that goes through the specific processes that I want my clinicians to have, and that I want to ensure that each person that comes through the door of my practice is getting. So that being providing a baseline consistency of care on what intakes look like, on what parent feedback sessions look like, and how we provide that, how clinicians understand, like we talked about a little earlier, child development, and how do we set goals for children that are different than adults? How do we talk about goal setting? Best practices for diagnosing children, because again, there's a whole ethical component that's different than with adults for diagnosing children, specifically to do no harm to a child, and is this going to affect their record long term, and making sure that we have a conversation with parents. These are things that often aren't talked about if people even have training in child work. And even if you get a certification like becoming a registered play therapist, it doesn't mean that you have an understanding of how to translate goals, because you have some autonomy in the types of trainings that you choose. So I found that it's important for me to be able to have some control, so that as a practice owner, I'm providing a level of care that I feel comfortable with, that I feel like is ethical.
Got it. So there's really what I hear you saying, there's really like two things at once here. We talked about what is the content that you want to be able to make sure people are, your team is reading and going through. And also like the delivery vehicle, right? So you don't have to have multiple conversations all the time. So that's using a platform like Therasas or some sort of content management system. Well, inside Therasas, there's a membership course module that you can create coursework. And so that's like the delivery mechanism. What are you doing as far as, well, I'm curious if you want to walk us through how you're thinking, because I know you created like 4 different phases of training. Maybe help us understand how you conceptualize that. Like what's how have you frame that? And then also, what does it look like for, let's say, like accountability, but you just don't want to give people a bunch of videos to watch and articles to read and then not have them process it.
Sure. And so I just want to make a clarifying statement that I typically, if someone comes to me and they're fully licensed and they have been practicing play therapy, I still will ask them to go through my onboarding. I still have them do my onboarding, and I ask them to go through phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 and phase 2 really are, this is how we do parent intakes, and this is how we do assessment and write notes, and this is what we're going to look for as you do this, and this is how we partner with parents here at Kid Matters. So there is some general information, but it's super helpful, I feel like, that for anyone to be able to do whatever experience they have. They can breeze through it, or they can take their time. However, with clinicians that are either interns or less experienced or newer grads, the training program that I've created, yes, has not only the onboarding, but then these 4 phases that walk through different aspects of play therapy to be able to provide a baseline consistency of care, to be able to provide clear education that's measurable, so that at the end there's a learning pod. So let's say a week, right? They've read some things, they have watched some videos, they've attended a seminar, they have a test, or they have to write an integration paper, or they have to bring a video of session to an integrative time that they have set up, that we walk closely with them, specifically for the first few phases of the POP. And then we have someone that is providing, that is the overseer and executor of the training, and then also someone that is providing licensure supervision, but also play therapy specific supervision, so that we can, again, go over these things and one-on-one or in a group see how these things are played out in their life. And if they're not reading or they're not comprehending, then we're going to pick up on that. So there's multiple checks. And then I, as the business owner, have monthly meetings where we go over what's called a goal alignment sheet. And we look at all of the things that they have agreed to, not just how many clients they see and how many, if they got their notes done, and if they, were able to charge, but also what did you do in the training program? Where are you in that phase? Do you have any questions? Do you have any goals for yourself for integrating this material? Because we want to make sure that what we're selling is actually being delivered. And what I have experienced that is somewhat concerning to me is that that there are times when when there are gaps in education, especially with people getting services for children, where it's like, well, it's baptism by fire and you just do it. And there is a merit to learning by doing, but there's also a really important stewardship of being able to have knowledge and help people. And if you are offering a certain type of service, to deliver that. So we've created these things, and it's not perfect, but along the way we've realized, oh, we need a goal alignment sheet, or oh, we need to have these specific checks, or we need to have these certain tests. And it has been a learning process for me too, in this whole endeavor. But I think that providing clear education that is measurable and what you want your clinicians to know is going to provide you peace of mind at the end of the day, that this product that you're delivering, this counsel, is being offered and delivered the way that you are selling it.
Yeah. I think it's important for every practice owner to think through, it's probably not a good analogy, but the reason why a McDonald's hamburger tastes the same in Illinois as it would in Ohio or California is they have like standard training.
Well, I think it is. I do think it's a wonderful way to think about it. I mean, I was a manager at Starbucks for many years, and I think that really influenced the way that I run my private practice. And because I went through the recession at Starbucks, and they shut the whole place down everywhere in America for 2 hours to train everybody again on how to make a perfect espresso shot, or how, these different things. And it's like, if we don't have our basics, if we don't know the specific things, this isn't to say that every therapist can deliver it a little bit differently.
Right.
But if you go in to Starbucks and you order an Americano, or you were talking about McDonald's, right? In Illinois, it should taste the same in Hong Kong. That's the thing. It's like it because the recipe is the same. Now, the experience, the ambiance, all the barista, it's all going to be different. But you want to make sure that especially when working with children and parents, if there's best practice, ethical care, it's important that you don't deviate just because you think that it's cool or it's necessary. And yes, the other thing that I do want to highlight is that you have to continue to update your training program, because there are going to be changes. There's going to be new information. There's going to be new neuroscience data. There's going to be more norms. There's going to be, like, for instance, when COVID happened, there were different presenting issues and concerns that were happening in children, and being able to understand that in light of child development is super important. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything at this point, but we have to have a starting place so that we have a baseline consistency.
Right. Yeah. And it's exactly right. So if you order a cappuccino, you know, it's going to taste the same, but there might be some foam art on the top, a little bit of artistic work, right? So I know in the art of play therapy is like, there's some improvisation there that you have to go with, but the baseline experience for how children are healing, finding, getting healed and getting help, and how parents are being resourced, that can be standardized, and there can be a system for that. So I think as group practice owners out there, even just for, solo practice owners, like having some sort of start writing down what does the onboarding process look like? Because this is going back to your brand identity. And if you have your whole team delivering high quality care because you've put some things in place that standardize the processes, from training to even getting more clinical training, not just the onboarding inner office stuff, but also helping them become really great therapists, and thinking that through. Because I think group practice owners, they get into being a group practice because they love helping clients, and they've really thought through how people change, and they have a lot to offer the world. So like what you're doing is kind of standardizing this, because you have grown as a therapist. I know you've gotten a ton of certifications, and there's a lot more information that you want your team to know. And so you've created a curriculum. It sounds like there's 4 phases. And then you have the deliverability asset, which is you're using TheraSAS. And then you also have the accountability side. So I want everyone's listening as we're wrapping up to kind of be thinking, what could I be doing to help standardize things across my practice, and resourcing my clinicians so they can be amazing therapists and providing consistent care. Because if you can get that, that's going to grow your brand, and people are going to want to come to your practice instead of the competition, because you do provide wonderful care. And as a practice owner, you kind of have a pretty good idea what that looks like, and you're imparting that knowledge to others. So, so if you feel like you need to level up yourself as a business owner and grow as a group practice owner, then I want you to go and check out the Group Practice Scaling Summit. Susan, I know you're going to go dive even deeper into this. You're going to get into the phases. You're going to talk about that onboarding. You're going to talk about that training. You're going to talk about how it keeps, the accountability side, and all those different mechanisms that creates a really great internal training program for your clinicians. So
yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope to see many of you there. We'll talk also about the cost benefit analysis and why it matters, and if it's something that you want to do in-house, or if you want to outsource some of it as well. But I really do think that it's worth thinking about, for the longevity of any business, how to implement a training program so that the baseline quality of care that you are providing and the clinicians that you hire are providing as well.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. I don't know, I'm trying to wrap up here, but I was just thinking, because you've niched down with children, you can have something very specific. But if you're a generalist, you can have a small training session, or at least like an internal training module or something, where it's just focused on couples counseling, or maybe it's working with children, or working with teens or individuals, whatever it might be. You could have like different, like choose your own adventure, depending on what the specialties that your clinicians have, as you're kind of a more generalist practice. So, so lots of different ways you can go. So go to brandyourpractice.com/summit, or just Google Group Practice Scaling Summit and sign up today. Tickets are going fast. Susan, how can more people find out about you? Where would you like to send them?
They can find out more about me at kidmatterscounseling.com, at playtherapytoolbox.com. I do trainings there. and they can listen to my blog. That sometimes
Listen to a blog or read a blog or
read
listen
a
to a
blog,
podcast.
listen to a podcast. They can do all types of stuff, but they can find me primarily at Susan Stutzman. I'm sorry, not Susan Stutzman, at kidmatterscounseling.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
All the
you.
content on the Brand Your Practice podcast and website and other media reflects my own opinions and should not be taken as legal advice, financial advice, or investment advice. Please seek the guidance of a professionally trained and licensed individual before making any decisions. Some links in the description may be affiliate links. All right, folks, thanks for listening. If you found this conversation useful, subscribe to the podcast, share it with someone, and please join me for the next time on the Brand Your Practice podcast.